I'm Mora, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mora wherever you get your podcasts.
Pull up a chair. This is going to be really good.
Hi, this is Anita Joyce here with Kelly Wilkness, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. And today's episode is Decorate Like a Pro, Dining Room Edition. And it is the time of year when we're having people over, and it's kind of time to think about how your dining room looks. And if you want to do any work on it, you might want to do it now before your friends come over.
Yeah, don't do it while your friends are there, unless they're handy. And then definitely do it when they're there. We love setting a beautiful table, but there's so much more to your dining room being beautiful than just what's on your table. So today we're going to go deep into all of that. We've got a lot of info for you and inspiration. And I think Anita even has a few actual pieces to share. But before we get into that, I wanted to share something that I haven't even told my friend Anita, so I thought I'd tell you all at the same time. I'm super excited about this.
You see how she treats me? I don't really get a heads up on anything.
You know why? Because life is just so busy. We hardly have any time to actually just talk.
I just talked to you a couple of days ago, but go ahead.
I know. We were recording another podcast. So I got invited to be a host on a brand new app. It's called XOXO. And it's a premium live shopping app on your phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I just really got rolling. I've done a couple. I didn't want to share the first one because I was a little awkward with getting the live going. I wasn't sure if I was really on. So I thought I'd wait till I got a few more attempts under my belt before I shared it. But I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be really great. So it's an app that you can download to your phone. And there I am. And there are several other women also doing their own lives. So we're talking to you for about, I talk a lot. So it's supposed to be like 15 minutes. I'm usually like even pushing 20, 25 minutes. But
now you're shocking me. You're shocking me.
I know. It is surprising. Once I get rolling, I just can't stop. But it's a live presentation of some of these beautiful products that have been curated by this wonderful woman who's working with XOXO, and she's got a fabulous taste. And I'm also working in, and all the other hosts also working in tips and ideas and inspiration. So it's kind of like a little bit of what we do here because I'm sharing tips. Like the last one I did was table setting. So I had 7 different tips, and then I'm showing you beautiful products. So I hope everybody would take a moment to check it out. You can download it to your phone. And I also have a special discount code for you if you are interested in any of the products. But I would love you just to check it out and give me some feedback. What do I look like on there? Because doing the podcast, you don't have to get ready. You don't have to do your hair or anything.
That's why we love it.
So I'll have the link to XOXO in the show notes. So it's XOXO.live/Kelly, and it's TUCASA, but the link will be in the show notes. And then if you join, you can also get 15% off your first purchase. So you'll see that when you get in there. But, check it out, check me out, check out the other hosts, and I'd love to get your feedback. So honestly, as, friends and listeners, if you had any thoughts about how, what you thought, or could it be better or whatever, shoot me an email. I'd appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so excited. I am going to go download that as soon as I can because I can't wait to see it. So can we see the old lives or only when you actually literally are live?
They have kept them on there for a little while. So I think today, the one I did on the 5th is still on there. So they keep the full length on there for a few days thereafter. And then they kind of edit it up where it's just shorter little segments, like highlights from it.
Oh, okay,
yeah. And then there's, they're just getting going. It's a startup. So it's, pretty interesting what they're doing. It's just a different way to shop. Like, people don't go to department stores or malls so much anymore, or
no,
even.
I mean, this is QVC for your phone.
Yeah, but cooler.
Well, Well, of course it is, because you're on there. Hello.
Pretty much. Oh, I didn't want to say that, but okay, I'll take
I'll
it.
say it. Oh, my goodness.
So anyway, yeah, it's been really fun. So check it out, see what you think, and let me know. So today, as we told you, Anita and I would love you to pull up a chair and join us in the dining room for all things dining room and how to wow them over the holidays with your dining room and your table.
I mean, the first thing that you're going to think about is how are you going to use this room? Are you doing double duty? Is this also a home office? Are the kids doing their schoolwork there? And I really think that's the first place to start before you even think about the design. What's going to be going on in this room? Because, I know a lot of people that they have, visions of sugar plums in their head. They're going to, do these elegant dinner parties, but, the reality is just the dog bowls in there and the kids doing the homework. So
it's good to dream.
Yes, well, it's nice to dream, but then you want to make sure it's not too fancy, and then, the dog is getting stuff all over your silk curtains and, so forth and so on. So that really is the first thing to think about is how are you going to use the room? And you can still kind of upgrade a little bit, but you have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And I have an idea later on how to really make the room spectacular, not only for dining, but also for a multi-purpose room. So before we get into the fantastic and the fabulous, let's just get through some of the dimensions that are good to keep in mind with regard to a dining room, because unlike maybe the living room or some other room, like a family room, some rooms that can be a little bit more casual, it's pretty important to get your dimensions correct in the dining room. You don't want the table too high for people like me who are only 5'3" and a half or 3/4, depending on the day. And you don't want to have the chair seat too high or too low. You don't want to feel like Goldilocks when they come into your dining room. And you want to get the lighting right. And a lot of that has to do with how high the chandelier is or the light fixture is off your table.
While you're talking about that, keep in mind too, if you have an antique table, and sometimes it's not even an antique table, but if you have that apron under your table, then I think you need to have enough room for someone to cross their legs under the table. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I think you're so right. And that might not be something that someone even considers, particularly if you're buying it online. You might not even get to see an image of that part of the table. Mm-hmm. So you might be surprised. And Anita, since you're our defining lady, let everybody know what the apron is in case they don't know what we're talking about.
Well, that's that little piece underneath the table that if the table's too low, that's what your knees knock into.
Right. So sometimes it's purely decorative. Other times maybe it's something that's actually helping to support the table. But, if it's there, you can't take it off. It's not a removable thing.
So you just kind of need to keep in mind, if it's a new table, if it's not an antique, it's probably going to be fine. But some of these older tables, there is a problem. One of the things you can do is put maybe the casters on it to lift it up and see if you can lock them in place. Or if they're on a rug, then that'll probably keep it in place so it's not moving around. But that's one thing. And I actually have an antique table. I had the same problem on my porch, and I actually cut some pieces of wood that kind of are the same color as the table and snuck them under the feet. And it's really hard to even notice that they're there. But it made a big difference.
I love that fix, the casters or the extra pieces of wood. And I'm thinking too, as you were saying, that you could buy little bun feet and things like that, so maybe something that might go with the leg of your table, or something that, if your table's simple, maybe you went out a little something. If you need that, I think that's a great solution. So let me just run through some of these various dimensions that you might want to keep in mind. So generally a table is somewhere between 28 and 30 inches tall. So that's from the floor to the top of the table. Usually I'm thinking it's closer to 30 than 28, but again, it could be a vintage or an antique table. And then your chair seat, to be commensurate with that normal size table, should be somewhere in the range of 17 to 19. And really the sweet spot there is 18. So that would be from the bottom of the leg to the top of the seat. Now, it may vary a little bit if you have an upholstered chair. So when you're measuring it, and then when someone actually sits on it, might squish a little bit. So there's a little bit of play there, but you don't want someone to feel like they're a kid at the grown-up table. That it's just, that's how I feel on my outdoor table, which there's so little solution for, but we'll figure that out on another day. Then the chandelier or the lovely light fixture you may have, or you should have over your table, 30 to 36 inches off the top of the table, depending on the ceiling height. So generally, if you've got an 8-foot ceiling, 30 inches off. And if you've got, say, a 10-foot ceiling, 36 inches off. So you're going to increase it by 3 inches for every foot that your ceiling increases. So you got to do a little math there.
Right, but if it's a cathedral type ceiling,
yeah, then it's
then you can go higher than the 36.
Yes,
so
definitely.
And rather than so many feet for the height of the ceiling, I mean, I would just kind of back up and just kind of see what looks good at that point.
Yes. If you've got an extremely high ceiling, I would do it by eyeball and how it feels. You do it, have someone sit at the table, stand back, look at it. But these are just general dimensions just to keep in mind.
While you're talking about that, that's another thing to think about, because a lot of times the light fixture's in the center of the dining room, but if you put a buffet or a china cabinet or something against the wall, then your table is not going to be centered under the light fixture anymore, which kind of drives me nuts.
I'm starting to twitch.
I don't like that either. So I actually had them offset mine when we had the house built, because I knew that was going to bother me. But if you're stuck with it, you can always do a long chain, if it's on a chain, and swag it over, a foot or whatever you need to.
You're just full of good solutions today.
I try.
You really are. So now I'm sure we'll talk about rug as a design element later on, but here we're talking about the rugs with respect to the size. So say you have, and again, these are general, depending on the size of the shape of your rug and things like that. It may vary, mileage may vary, but this is just general. So the table for 8, usually a 9x12 will work. Table for 6, 8x10. Table for 4, you could do it 8x10 or a 6x9, or you could do a round if you've got a round table for 4. So an 8-foot round would be appropriate. Really what you're going for is 4 feet longer and wider than your table, because you want to be able to have the chairs not only sit close to the table, but you want people to be able to slide the chair out, get in and out. They don't want to, they can't vaporize to get into the seat. So then you need about 18 to 24 inches for the chairs to slide in and out comfortably and yet stay on the rug, because you really don't want 2 legs on and 2 legs off. That's uncomfortable.
Or when you pull the chair out, it's not on the rug anymore. That's an awkward look.
Yes. So those are my dimensions, and if you need to re-listen to copy those down, go right ahead. But maybe we'll even stick those in the show notes if we get to have a little time for that.
Not making any promises on that, but no, that's a good idea.
You know who does the show notes, right, everybody? It's not me.
Yes, that's true. So the other thing, so once you've kind of kept these dimensions in mind, you've thought about how you're using the room, I think the next step is to put that Pinterest board together. Start looking online on Pinterest and look at some dining rooms and see which ones really appeal to you, because there's so many different looks you can have. You can have a neutral look, you can have bold color, pastels, you can have lots of pattern, contemporary, boho. There's just so many different looks, and it really is good to have some inspiration photos so you kind of know the direction you're going. You don't want to be schizophrenic in your approach. So I think you kind of want to have a cohesive feel, just a really well-defined idea of kind of the overall look you're going for. Now, it may be that you kind of saw a table that you really like, and you're just not going to be able to get that table, or your table doesn't look like that. That's okay, but it's just kind of your goal, or just something to kind of look for when you're out looking for things. So I think it's really there's a lot of value in doing that Pinterest board, because it does kind of help you narrow down and say, okay, this is what I want my room to kind of look like in general.
Yes. Oh, and always such fun to do that. I want to talk about the furniture that I would like to see in a dining room, if possible. It may be a smaller room. You might not have room for everything, and that's okay. These are just things to keep in mind when you're designing your dining room and you're deciding what to put in there. Obviously, a table and chairs, but you want to maybe break up the set, either different chairs, they don't all have to match, or the chairs are different from the table. A rug. I love to see a mirror in a dining room, and then something for serving, a horizontal surface. You could have a china cabinet, and gosh, we've talked in the past about different ways to really jazz up a china cabinet. That could be fun, to really work on and make it a very unique piece. Or maybe you have something that is older and you inherited it, or you just love it and you can fill it with beautiful things. If you've got the room for it, obviously the perfect place to put it. But you know what? Use the stuff that's in it. And we can talk about that too. But let's talk about the table for a second.
Well, I wanted to back up while you're still talking about the furniture in general.
Yeah.
And because I see this happen. Sometimes people end up sometimes I think the room feels a little bare to them. So they start, what do? They start filling up the corners with chairs and furniture and a little table here and a little tray there and a little something here. And that is not going to be the look you're going to want to have. I think if you're...
You're so kind the way you put that. Maybe not. Maybe not the look you want. No,
you do not want this room overloaded with furniture. That's not you. You really want the focus on the table, on a buffet or something behind it, and whatever is above that piece back there, and then maybe your light fixture, the table and chairs. That's really what you want mainly in that room. So, you can, if it's a big room, you can maybe sneak in a little something extra, but I would be very careful about overloading the room with furniture. And while I'm saying that, I think people get into trouble wanting to add all this stuff because the room looks bare. Why does the room look bare? Because the table is probably too small. So that's really something to think about, and make sure that your table is sized for your room, because that, I think, is really the root of the problem.
Wow. Getting to it. Okay, I agree. And that room being the dining room, yes, people tend to put stuff in there because it feels that like it's bare. You're absolutely right. Because if you just have a table and some chairs and maybe one other piece of furniture, like, I don't know about this. But we're going to talk about design elements later on in the episode that are going to wow the space, make it feel super full, and make it feel interesting. So, you just got wood on wood with a little more wood and then maybe some plates. It's just not going to feel like it's enough. But I agree with Anita. Just don't keep willy-nilly adding other pieces of furniture or just like random extra stuff. Something that happens too is like if you have a table with leaves and you're using maybe the chairs that came with it, you've got a whole lot of chairs that you're not using on a regular basis. And so then they become timeout chairs against the wall, which, can kind of look interesting.
I've seen that look good. That's not always bad.
It's not always bad, but, if you're going to have chairs just against the wall, they should be little kind of interesting, like Frenchies or little accent chairs that are not part of the set. I don't love the part of the set being a timeout chair. I don't
really.
Love that.
Well, if you've got a buffet there, I can see having an extra chair on either side. If you have the extra chairs, you don't know where to put them. I'm fine with that look. But again, it really kind of depends. I mean, if it looks overcrowded, then no.
Yeah. Also, because there's just so much hard surface in a dining room generally. It's mostly wood, or maybe you have a more modern table. It might be metal or cement or something. Like, you're still dealing with a lot of hard surfaces, and then you're keeping other chairs that are maybe wood, and it just seems like a lot of hard surface. So I'd rather take those out and break it up, or maybe change those chairs and make those chairs something else. But I'm getting a little into the weeds on that. Let me back up and talk about the table. Now, you just said, which I think is a great point, that the table may be too small for the space. So that's why people are feeling like, whoa, this is kind of floating around in here. While I agree with you, and again, it's general because we don't know what size your dining room is and we don't know what size table you have. But on the flip side of that is that you don't have to have a gigantic table with all the leaves in it if your room can't handle it. So I think it plays both ways. There are two sides to that coin, right?
I think it should be sized appropriately.
Right.
And if it's a table that has my old dining room table with the leaves in stretched out to 12 feet. That just looks weird. Most of the time. So
right.
I wouldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah. So you're right. You want it too big and you don't want it too small for your space. I think it needs to work.
You want it just right. Didn't I mention Goldilocks already today? Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfasts, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Pesto pork chops over Parmesan polenta. Not that easy to say, but oh so easy to make with Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit company for eating well, and we have such a great deal for you. You're going to save $250. Listen on for the details on that. Green Chef makes eating well easy for any lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat more balanced meals. You know, we're getting into the busy holiday season, so it's a perfect time to have Green Chef help you out. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients and nothing artificial. And you know what? You don't have to lose track of your healthy eating habits during the holidays. Every Green Chef customer gets a free session with their registered dietitians who will walk you through how to make clean eating work for you. So sign up for your free session and start on the road towards better health today. And that deal I want to tell you about, visit greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. So that's greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order.
The next thing, once we're talking about the table, let's talk about what's going on the wall behind the table, because that's probably going to be your focal point, is whatever is above on the wall above the table when you look straight into the dining room. And that could be a mirror or artwork. And, you know, a mirror is traditional. It's great for reflecting the light. And I think it's a wonderful element to have in your room. But if you don't want a mirror, I think this is a great place to choose some really bold, beautiful artwork. I think the key with a mirror or artwork is you cannot go too small. And just like we talked about, you don't want a lot of little furniture in the dining room. You don't want a lot of little pieces of art on the walls. I think you're going to want one big piece or a set of prints that go together above that buffet, and maybe a few other pieces in the room, but you do not want stuff just plastered all over the walls. For some looks, you can do it, but for most dining rooms, I think that's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of having a gallery wall or just a lot of different things on the wall in the dining room. I think it should be one large piece or a mirror. I 100% agree with that. It just seems too busy to have that. You want it to be a calming space and a place where you're going to enjoy food and conversation. So I wouldn't want a whole lot of distraction, but I would want something that was kind of interesting. So if it's a mirror, I always think a mirror is a great choice, but make it an interesting mirror and make it super large, which in and of itself will make it interesting. Something you can do if you can't find a mirror that is big enough for your dining room is you can just have a piece of mirror cut from a glass shop. There are probably little glass shops, mom and pop glass shops in every town or the town over from you. Have them come out, measure, they can affix it right to the wall. And then if you're handy or if someone you know is handy, you can have them come over and and just create some molding to trim it out. So you're in effect making your own mirror to the exact size that you need. I did that in my prior house in San Marino, and it was great. It completely changed the room. I had 2 narrow windows on either side. I had a very low buffet, and it was not a wide room. It wasn't even really that long, but it was definitely more rectangular than in shape. So I had a long table, not a lot of space for a lot of other things. The mirror completely transformed the room. You could see everything. And my dining room was across the hallway entryway, and then across from it was the living room. So you could actually see the living room reflected in the mirror. And that was nice any time of year, but particularly at Christmas when we were sitting there to eat, you could see the Christmas tree in the mirror. So it just did so much for that room. I highly recommend that. And it's really not that expensive to have it cut exactly to the size you want.
So I'm curious to know, how wide was this mirror?
How wide was this mirror? Well, gosh, I don't really remember off the top of my head, but it had to have been 7 feet.
Oh, wow. Okay. This really was much larger than you would be able to find in the store.
Yeah, it ran the whole length, just a little shy of this long buffet, which I don't, calling it a buffet is not right. It was like a low dresser that I got at a consignment store.
So this dresser must have been much smaller than the mirror.
It was lower, and no, super long, super long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it was something that someone probably would have had in an office, because it felt like the drawers were kind of almost like ones you would have files in. It could have been like for a lawyer's office or something.
Oh, okay.
It was super long.
You must have left that piece of furniture there or sold it?
I did leave it there with the mirror because they loved it.
Oh, there you go.
That was something that I did to great effect in that dining room, because it just wasn't that interesting of a room. And there was a big arched entryway. There just wasn't a lot of room for art. And so this did so much to the room. So if you've got a dining room like that, where it's really not closed off to itself, and maybe you wouldn't want to be seeing necessarily a piece of art when you're looking through, the mirror is great because it reflects the light while you're in it. And then it's bringing the different elements of your house, into the dining room.
I think that's a wonderful idea. And while we're talking about the walls and putting art or a mirror on there, I wanted to talk about something you can do in this room, because this is a kind of in general, kind of a closed space. Usually it's not an open concept dining room. So, this is a room where you could put some wallpaper, put a real bold color on the walls, or even do, just like we talked about, maybe just that main wall with the wallpaper. I think that would be fine. But this is really, we talked about the trends recently and how wallpaper is in, color is in. So this is a great place to put that, is in your dining room, because there's usually not a lot of other pattern and fabric in there. So it's a great place to do that if you're wanting to add some pattern and some beautiful wallpaper.
There's so many fun things that you can do in a dining room because it's a special room. Most of the time. I know people have been working in there and doing things like that lately, but it is a room where you celebrate occasions. It's a room that maybe it's not something you use every single day, but we encourage you to use it as much as possible. But you can kind of amp it up, right? You can turn the dial up a little bit. It can be a little bit more dramatic. So think about how that might work in your whole house and with the flow of your whole house. And if your house can take it, or if you're interested in trying something new, try it in the dining room. I think it's a perfect place. How about a mural? There are such beautiful murals. I don't know if you've seen those murals they're hand painted, but on paper. I can't remember the name of the company, but if I find it, I remember it. We'll put that in the show notes. Super high end, super expensive, but that can be an inspiration for finding something else, whether it's a wallpaper or whether it is there are adhesive murals that are removable. That could be so cool. So you could do that on the wall as art, and then maybe put a mirror on top of that, depending on what the design was like. I'm not a giant fan of treating the wall in the dining room as like a half wall, because a lot of times, particularly maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, the chair rail with the paint on the bottom or something on the bottom and then something different on the top. I'm not a giant fan of that. I'd kind of like to see the whole wall done, whether it's a painting it a special color, or whether you're doing some special wallpaper, or, as I'm saying, a mural maybe on one wall. So if you have a chair rail, you think about that. I don't like splitting anything. Maybe it's because I'm short. Like I like to wear one color, because I look taller.
No, I'm short-waisted. I have the same problem. But wainscoting, I mean, that's what I have. I really like that. It's not just the chair rail or the dado rail.
Right.
In the center,
there you go.
Yeah, but it's the whole.
And then what do you have above it?
I just painted wall,
Right. And is it painted the same color?
No, but it's a slight difference.
Right, but it's a slight difference. Yeah,
No,
it's
no,
not
it's
like
not
you have persimmon on the bottom and some kind of wallpaper on the top.
It's a very subtle difference. Right. So it kind of has that, look of being pretty similar. But what I was going to say is I got some wonderful wallpaper from Pasted Paper.
Oh, you did get it? Which design did you get?
Well, a couple of them. I'm going to have to go look and see which ones I got. But one of them was we got for Evie was the one that has the black background with the the flowers on it.
I love that one. I'm thinking about doing the barn bathroom in that one.
Well, it's gorgeous. So I have the paper. We haven't had a time to sit together and kind of decide what all we were doing. I actually have some hat boxes or some other boxes too that I'm going to use some of the paper to put on it. Mm-hmm. Some of the William Morris one that's got the green leaves on it.
Love it.
Right. But but for Evie, I think we decided we're going to take the wallpaper and frame it and then put 3 pieces on the wall. But that's what you could do. And, you've done the framed wallpaper in your house. So that is something you can do, too, especially if you did a big panel of it. You could wallpaper a big, piece of wood or, foam core or something, and then just put a little frame around it. And that would be beautiful in there. And I also
That's a great idea. I did do that. I forgot about that. I have those giant long panels. They're at least 6 feet long, the ones that I did.
Exactly. So you could do that. And I also found a piece of artwork that I think would be so beautiful and peaceful. And you'll have to look at it. I'll link to it in the show notes. But I found some artwork that I think would just be so beautiful in a dining room. It's restful. It's interesting. And I think it would go with just about any style in there.
Oh, you're teasing us. We all have to go look. Okay. We'll definitely do that. Mix your materials in your dining room too. As I was saying before, there's oftentimes, again, generalization, but lots of wood. Wood floor, wood table, wood chairs. Mix it up. Maybe put in some upholstered chairs at either end, or metal chairs, or a bench made of some other material. It's okay to mix metals. It's great. Big thumbs up on mixing metals anywhere. So definitely you can do that in your dining room to add some more interest. Here's what I was saying earlier when I alluded to having an idea about making it more of a multi-purpose room. But I think even if you only use this for dining and you did this, I think you're going to like this, Anita. We've talked about this before, is lining the walls, or at least one wall, with bookcases and just making the bookcases really beautiful, styling them really well. Yes, that's what I was talking
about with the Billies that have the glass doors.
Love it. I checked those out.
They're sold out now. So I'm not going to be able to do
Thanks a lot, Anita.
Yeah,
you could have told me that on the side.
Well, I knew better than to mention them before I bought mine.
Oh, so you did you get them?
No, I didn't get them. They're gone.
Oh, you didn't get them yet? Oh, no.
I know. Well, that's fine.
Well, but look what you do for everyone. Just share, share, share.
I do. It's just all about the love for the people. Yeah, but that is a great look, and you just keep your eyes open because, IKEA's going to get them back in eventually, and they'll be great. And those were super inexpensive, so you could definitely use those. But they have some other ones too, but I think that was really the best deal. And I liked it. The shelves go all the way to the floor.
Oh,
So
yeah, they were great.
nice.
I jumped right on their site after we recorded the other day. And yeah, I didn't order them. I didn't even check to see that I need to do some measurements, but now I know I don't have to rush back.
Well,
They're back
actually,
there.
it may be regional. You may have them in your area, but I know I can't order. I think it may just be that you have, if it's in stock at your store.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
you may have them.
Okay. But what a great thing to do. And really in keeping with what we talked about in the recent trends episode, where there was that predominant theme of the English country vibe throughout so many of the trends. And wouldn't that just be the coziest English country cottagey thing? Or you could even think it like a little bit more formal in a sense, depending on what type of books and what other things you had on the bookshelves. But I think bookshelves in a dining room is just dynamite.
I do too. And while we're talking about that, let's talk a little bit about whatever this piece of furniture is going to be against that back wall behind the dining room table, because the traditional thing is a china cabinet, which most people are not doing anymore. It's not really on trend. Not if you have it and you love it, keep it. Not saying it's wrong, but it's not really so much on trend. But the thing I think to keep in mind, I mean, personally, I prefer kind of a buffet in general. So then you've got the serving surface, you've got a place to put two lamps, two buffet lamps, and then you can use it for serving or some big display of whatever you want. So that's why I prefer that. But the other thing I like about the buffet is it tends to be longer, and I like something about the length of the table back there. I feel like it feels a little more balanced if you do that, because if what you're putting back there is a skinny little narrow something, I think that's another one of those things that makes the room feel off. I think you want something closer to the width of the table.
Yes, and probably something that has some cabinets in front or it's solid somehow, rather than just something like a console table. That's how I kind of feel. And that's useful too, because then you could put maybe the serving pieces that you don't use all the time, or a china. Storage
is great. Yeah.
An extra china set that you may or may not have. I don't know who has all of that laying around.
Oh. It's everywhere.
Guilty
in
as
my house.
charged, both of us. And then something beautiful on your table at all times. It does not have to be fussy and fabulous, and you don't have to have fresh flowers delivered on a weekly basis, but just something on there to soften it up. And you can leave it on there for a while. You could leave it on there for, the whole summer if you had a summery type of theme, or you don't want to be walking in there in maybe April and you still have Christmassy stuff, obviously. But if you had something that you could easily put together that looked great, and that was maybe your backup, your fill-in between the seasons, I think that's a great thing to have. Maybe you store it in the bottom of that break front or what have you, the extra piece of furniture you have in there, and just take it out, whether it's a runner and a couple of candlesticks, or just a lantern, maybe something with some height, maybe something in threes, or maybe a bunch of candlesticks grouped together on a tray. Something that's easy to do, but always looks nice. It's going to add a lot of texture and interest to the room, and it's just lovely. And you could light the candles. You could have them on batteries, because make the room inviting, even if you're not in there dining.
I think that's so true. And I think an oversized bowl, wood or otherwise, especially if it's filled with fruit, but it can even be empty. That looks great in the center of the table. But also, if you have a tray, whatever kind of tray appeals to you, put that there. Maybe a stack of, I actually have on my table a silver tray with a stack of purple transferware dishes that are antique from France, of course, and then 2 silver candlesticks, and I think I have one other thing on there too. But, you can just kind of have a stack of dishes, or just some of your favorite pieces there. And if you put it on a tray, you can go with some smaller pieces. If you just have one thing, you're going to want something larger. Sometimes people that like antiques have maybe a dough bowl on there, which is a large wooden bowl, or kind of elongated. But, it needs to be sized, not too small. You want it kind of on the larger size, unless you have a grouping of things on a tray. But I think that's going to really make it look good. And then the other thing is, like you've been saying, Kelly, there's not usually a lot of fabric in this room. So you don't want all wood. So this is a great place to add some fabric, to do a table runner on the table when you're not using it. The other thing I like to do is to use an undersized tablecloth, so that it's going, or maybe it's just going the wrong way, so that the ends of my table are exposed and showing.
That's my favorite part. If I'm not doing a runner, that's what I do.
Me too. And it's kind of just a really updated, fun look, because if you have a tablecloth on that covers the whole table, that might look like you're getting ready to eat, or it's kind of more of an older look. So turn it the other way, expose the edge of the table, and then you've got a very updated, fresh look.
Did you see what I have on my table right now on Instagram? I posted a little video of it. I can't turn away from a pumpkin. I just can't. So I just kept buying all these pumpkins. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I have so many of these pumpkins. I'm just going to do this just like really lush pumpkin display on the table. But then, of course, I was like, Oh gosh, well then I need to get 3 more because I need another medium and 2 smalls and whatever. But they're the fairy tale pumpkins, so they're in like that soft, amazing celadoni green and like not super orangey. That sort of really pale peach and the white. Oh my gosh! So I piled up. I think I don't even remember actually, you guys, what's under there. I think it's like 3 or 4 decor books, and then I put. It's probably a shawl, like we talked about, or a big scarf that I've had. And so I threw that over, just like you're saying, sort of sideways and scrunched it up a little bit. And so I put the most spectacular fairy tale pumpkin on top of the stack, but the stack is covered by the scarf. And then I just kept arranging them and letting them sort of spill out. And then I put in a little wheat here and there, and then some seeded eucalyptus, which I've had to replace once already, but it's okay because that lasts a long time. But it just looked a little sad after about 10 days. But wow. And I got all the pumpkins at Trader Joe's. It's so fun. I love walking by it. And that was so easy and obviously so seasonal. And I'll have to be so sad and compost my pumpkins at the end when Christmas comes around. But super easy. I really enjoyed putting it together. And every time I would go to the grocery store, I was like a little kid whose mom would be like, you can pick 1 pumpkin. I was like, okay, just one more, please. Can I get 2?
A public service announcement. I just went to Trader Joe's. Totally out of pumpkins. Totally out.
Oh, wow. Pumpkins and the Billy bookcase you cannot get in Houston.
Well, yes, I know. I mean, I'm telling you, there's a shortage.
But jumping back to the bowl idea, I think that is just a fantastic tip. So picture you're doing this smaller tablecloth or scarf or stadium blanket or whatever you want to do. On the side, you're exposing a little table. You have a really nice oversized bowl. Now, this could be crystal or wooden, like a big dough bowl, or pottery, or even made out of rattan or wicker or something like that. A beautiful bowl, silver would be great. Mm-hmm. And then, like you're saying, it would look fabulous empty. Maybe you put a candlestick on either end, something like that. But it's there. It's your decor hotspot, which I love talking about. And then in the summer, you fill it with lemons. In the fall, you fill it with baby pumpkins. In Christmas time, you fill it with pine cones or Christmas balls. And then, carry on. Fill it in, whatever you love. All right. The next time, maybe it's something for Valentine's Day. Or not. And then maybe Valentine's Day, you leave it empty because you don't have pink and red things. And you can just run through the whole year with one bowl. Super easy. Well, always looks good.
So you just reminded me. It just occurred to me. I have a very oversized bowl. It's really a punch bowl sized bowl.
Oh, that would be fun because I bet a lot of people listening somewhere might have a punch bowl, or someone they know has a punch bowl.
But mine is actually ceramic, and it's a gray and white buffalo check bowl.
Ooh.
Wouldn't that be? But it's massive is what I'm saying. I think that would be great. And it's got an underplate. I think I'm going to go put that on my dining room table when we finish. and put my velvet pumpkins in it, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, and we all know and are so envious of the number of velvet pumpkins you have.
You've got a bunch too.
Oh, not like I have 3. You have like 300. It's an embarrassment of riches is how many velvet pumpkins you have, but we don't have to dwell on that.
No, but apparently you haven't forgotten about it.
No, I haven't forgotten because I look at that picture all the time. Every fall. So where are we at?
Well, I was just going to talk about lighting for a minute.
Oh, great. Yes, very important.
When you look in there, your view in your dining room is going to be table, chairs, artwork, or whatever's on that wall, and your light fixture. It might make more of a change than you think to change it out. I've included a light fixture similar to what I have in my dining room. It's the type, it's kind of a country French look, and it's got the wooden tassels on it and the wooden beads. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I love it.
So I found one that's really inexpensive, I think, for what it is, because these can go into the thousands of dollars. But this one was a good price. I think I found it on Overstock.
And you can get the very odd 12% off. What you do with Overstock, I don't get that, but okay. But if you go there and you look for something and then you're like, I'll just wait a little while, they'll send you an email with 12% off. So you can play that game with them. If you have a light fixture that maybe has the little shades on them
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting tired of it, just take the shades off.
That's true.
You don't have to have those, or jazz them up.
Mm-hmm.
Ballard
Change them out. Yeah.
Change them out. Ballard has a great selection of those little shades in, sometimes cheetah print or palomino or, zebra. Fun.
So maybe, try the look of just taking them off. If you don't like that, then you can, the leopard print sounds amazing. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be great.
So I wanted to go back to the rug for a second, too, because you were talking about the size of the rug. And I wanted to mention again, there's not a lot of fabric in this room typically. So this is a great place to add pattern, to add comfort and coziness with a rug. You can go with like a sisal or something kind of neutral, but I really like to use some pattern and color in there with whatever direction you're going. Even if you have kind of a neutral room, I think this is just kind of a nice way to introduce some color that's not too much in your face. It's kind of on the floor.
Yeah, I definitely think a rug in the dining room is a must. I didn't have one for a long time for exactly the reason you mentioned. I was like, God, I'm crawling under there picking up all kinds of stuff. I don't really want to be vacuuming it all the time or having to get it cleaned. But at some point, I got clued in on what a difference a rug makes, and I decided to go for it, and I got a pretty inexpensive rug, and it did last a long time. And sure, sometimes there are messes, but most of the time there aren't, and then your dining room looks really, really nice. So I'd go for it.
Yeah, and this is also a great place to add curtains. I'm not a big fan of curtains everywhere because I think I like the windows open where you can see out, and I don't like too much fussiness on the windows. But for a dining room, again, I feel like it calls for it a lot of times. So I think this is a great place to consider some curtains if you're interested. And they'll add some warmth and some coziness to the room.
Absolutely. Because think about it. There's not usually, unless you've got some upholstered dining chairs, and if you're worried about a rug, you're definitely going to be worried about upholstered dining chairs. There's probably not a lot of opportunities in anyone's dining room for fabrics. And you really need it in the room. It's just not going to feel really comfortable and welcoming without some sort of textures and fabrics. And a great tip is to choose durable fabrics. There's no reason why you can't choose a velvet that's a performance right now, or any other type of fabric that's a performance. Or even if you wanted to do sunbrella, you can really get some fabrics that are going to be with you for the long haul and perform well for you and your family, and you're not going to have to worry about them.
Yes, and back to the chairs for a second, because I wanted to mention that I did select some chairs that I thought were beautiful, and not a traditional chair, but more of a more casual, easygoing chair that you could have in your dining room that are rattan, and I'll include the link to the ones I found. So these I thought were really beautiful. It looks like they have a removable seat cushion, so you could cover these, and then if you got something on them, you could recover them, change them, wash them. I think that would be great. But they look very casual, but also very comfortable. And although the back is rattan, you could put a pillow back there. So I really like the idea of kind of mixing it up, and I love kind of making unexpected places kind of a little more formal, and formal places a little more casual. So I think it's fun to get something like this that's more laid back in your dining room.
That in and of itself, the chairs aside, was just such a great tip that you said. Because isn't that true? When you're making a spot that's the expectation is that it should be formal, and when you're adding a material like rattan or something like that, it just makes the room so much more interesting. And exactly, the flip is true as well. And you're doing something super casual, and then maybe you add in some, I don't know, sterling silver or something like that. It changes the whole thing. I love that, and I love rattan, so I'm going to check those out because I love adding rattan in wherever I can, especially since Anita and I live in places that are warm a lot of the year. It's nice to have materials like that mixed in with the darker or heavier woods.
Are you ready for the DTT defines?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, today I thought we would talk about a Mora clock and what that is.
Ooh, you love those.
I know, I love them, but I think other people do too.
Oh, you're not alone.
Right. So a Mora clock, it's a type of long case clock made in a Swedish town called Mora. So it's kind of like a grandfather clock, only it's curved. Usually they're painted white or gray, and they're unlike a grandfather clock that you might find that's an English piece or a French piece or a German piece. These are very curved, and they're usually painted lighter gray, and they sometimes have other designs painted on them, maybe some hand painting. They are very expensive if you get the real thing, but you can buy reproduction pieces. But anyway, they began the production of these in the late 18th century, and their reproductions are made today. Mine is reproduction because I wasn't willing to pay the many thousands of dollars that I was going to have to pay for the real thing.
And I wonder if you had the real thing, maybe the clock really wouldn't work, or you'd have to pay a lot more for the clock to be fixed. So yeah, maybe a reproduction is the way to go.
Well, there's a couple of people at Round Top that sell them, and they are in fine working condition.
I was trying to make you feel better about having a repro.
Oh, no. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it because I think it's all about kind of just making these decisions. I mean, you have a certain budget, and you're going to decide what I'm going to splurge on and what I'm not going to splurge on. And so I'm fine with that.
And not being an expert on these particular types of clock at all, but when I've seen the reproductions, they look really good.
Sometimes a reproduction is, you look at it and you go, no, I don't think so. But I like this one fine.
Because I think the simplicity of the lines, maybe too, it make it easier to reproduce it and have it look really good. They're beautiful. So here's a place where we could add an image to Vodacast and a link so people could see what these clocks look like. And there's probably pictures from your home, Anita. So if
I'll include it.
Yeah, if you could share those in the show notes, I'll pop an image of Anita's home and her clock into Vodacast as well. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with the Vodacast, it is this really cool new podcast player where you can listen to the podcast, but you can also see images and click through links and see other images of things that we're talking about in, quote unquote, real time as we're talking, because the images are time stamped. So you'll know in the episode and it will pop up when we're talking about these particular things. So it's a really kind of cool way to take in your podcasts. And we're obviously not the only podcast on there. So check it out. The link will be in the show notes to Vodacast and also the link to this particular episode on Vodacast. Go ahead, clean out your closet, then head straight to Quince. I love every item Quince offers, from wardrobe to decor, and I can really recommend their Ultra Stretch Super Wide Leg Pant at $49.90. The price is unbeatable, and the look is so flattering. It keeps you in on top and flares out of the bottom. Everything feels right with Quince. The price, the quality, and the sustainability. Quince offers a range of luxury wardrobe and home goods at prices within reach. And like Quince's clothing, their home goods are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. Once you've cleaned out your closet and refreshed with Quince, you can also add something to your home decor. So give your wardrobe and your home the refresh it needs with Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. And let me know how you love those pants. BritBox just keeps getting better. The new Archie is amazing. And it's not the comics. It's about Cary Grant. Archie is the brand new limited series starring Jason Isaacs as Archie Leach, the man who became Cary Grant. From the award-winning screenwriter of Philomena, Archie tells Grant's born in Britain, made in Hollywood story, the dramatic grit to glamour transformation that led him to become one of the most famous people in the world. You are going to absolutely love the acting, but also the styling, the outfits, the scenery. It's the first time his story has been told in collaboration with his daughter Jennifer Grant and ex-wife Diane Cannon. The performances from Jason Isaacs and the rest of the cast are amazing, and it's only available on BritBox. So sign up for BritBox today to stream Archie and other fan favorites from any device. And we have a special limited time offer for our U.S. and Canadian listeners. Get 50% off, yes, that's 50% off your first month when you sign up for a monthly plan. but only if you go to BritBox.com and use our promotion code DTT at checkout. You're going to love Archie. So head over right now and get 50% off your first month of BritBox. Use the promotion code DTT at BritBox.com. Well, my crush is just a continuing crush. We got introduced to Cozy Earth products when they, I think, came to me first on my Instagram, and then they became sponsors of the show, the podcast, and they sent us the sheets. We love them, right, Anita? Absolutely love them.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So I just got to, they're so sweet. They're such a nice company. They just, out of the blue, said, hey, we want to send you a lounge outfit. I was like, yeah, baby. So he sent me this. Oh, my gosh. The jogger, and then I got this crew neck, I hesitate to call it a sweatshirt because it doesn't feel like a sweatshirt. I mean, it's, you just feel so good on. It's that bamboo material. So I got the matching. Of course, I picked my favorite Joy's color black.
Well, I have the black, the night shirt, and it is the softest thing. I mean, that's my favorite thing to sleep in.
Isn't it, though?
Yes.
And they were nice enough to also give a code for me to share for everybody. So it's My Soulful Home 45. And guess what you're going to get off? 45%.
Wow.
CozyEarth.com and then use the code My Soulful Home 45. And you can get a matching outfit to me.
That sounds wonderful.
Twins Day. What's your crush?
Food, of course.
I love it. It's always so reliable. Yeah.
Well, I'm always on the lookout for something healthy but delicious. So this is an oat milk. It's a barista oat milk called Oatsome. And I really like this because it just doesn't have anything. Some of them have all these additives in it. I'll include a link where you can buy this on Amazon. But it's oat milk, organic oats, sunflower oil, and sea salt. And that's it.
So this sounds good.
Well, and this is their barista version. So we have an espresso machine at home. And so we make cappuccinos all the time. And this foams like real milk.
Oh, good to know.
So they have a plain version and then the barista version. But honestly, I prefer the barista version because the other version has other additives in it.
You're keeping us clean and healthy, organized, and all of that. Love it. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We certainly enjoyed it. And remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time. Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.